So I'm going to quickly go over the implementation of one-way ANOVA using our adaptive memory example in Jamovi. And I'm starting off here by, instead of having in 3 columns our different groups recall scores, I put them all in 1 column. And I put the scores in order from the survival condition, so that should be the first 5 scores, followed by the self condition, which should be the next 5 scores, and then finally the pleasant condition, so that should be the last 5 scores. And then in the second column, and notice that this is a continuous variable. If you click on the top here, it should bring you here. You can click continuous for those scores. And then the second column, I'm using a nominal variable to code for which group each of these scores belong. So for the first 5 scores, we're going to enter 1, indicating group 1. For the second set of 5, group 2. And then for the final set, group 3. So now we can go back into this defined variable area, and instead of 1, we could write survive, self, and pleasant. And then it will change the labels here. So to implement one-way ANOVA, all we need to do is click on ANOVA in the dropdown, one-way ANOVA. And this is what should come up. Now your grouping variable is going to be group, and your dependent variable is going to be recall. And you could choose this Welch's option to give you a more conservative estimate. We want to request descriptive table, descriptive plots, and we want to request post hoc tests. And we could choose this games how version because we are assuming unequal variances. And we're requesting mean differences, the significance, and test results for those post hocs. So this is what we should get. So here's our omnibus one-way ANOVA. That's what we learned to calculate. Notice it's a little bit different than what we calculated by hand because we used this Welch form. If I assumed equal, it should be closer. There it is, 1.86. So we get both. And the degrees of freedom should match up in that Fisher's form. So let's just look at the Fisher form. So our F, as we calculated by hand, is 1.86. Degrees of freedom, numerator 2. So that's number of groups minus 1. And then number of subjects minus number of groups for DF2, 12. And our p-value, which is non-significant. Now we could look at this plot here, and it plots the means for each of these groups. So the survive group was averaging around 12.5. Self group, a little bit less, and pleasant group, less as well. So we do find that difference. And remember, the effect size is quite large, even though we don't find a significant p-value. And that's primarily because of small sample size. Now here are our post hoc tests. Now this is the survive group versus the self group, and our p-value is non-significant. Survive group versus the pleasant group, again, p-value non-significant. And then the self group versus the pleasant group, and again, a non-significant p-value. So that's how you do it in Jamovi, much easier than it is in Excel. And this is how we generally do this stuff in the field.